Let's see what this is going on. Japan is kicking out tourists. We can't take it anymore by Asian route. And from a snippet I got, this old man is getting harassed by this dude. Let me see what happens. All right, he's good.
But it's okay. Che. I think yeah, adios. Había poco, tío. Hey, stop, bro. Don't touch me, bro.
That's fucking stupid, bro. That's disgusting too, man. What?
Oh! Give me my fucking phone. Give me my fucking phone, bro. Let's go around here.
Dude, irrespective of color, man, Japan is getting sick of us Westerners. No, not us, because I'm not included. I'm a Western, but I don't act stupid over there. But by proxy, but I'm a Westerner by proxy, and I'm probably gonna get lumped in. If I ever visit Japan, they'll probably lump me and assume that I'm one of them because of because I'm a Westerner, because of these dumb shits and how they act in this country, man.
In recent months, Japan has been undergoing a significant transformation, and
Dude, it's not. Oh my god, hold on.
In recent months,
I didn't think it was like this in Japan as well, bro. The Muslim thing is happening. It's not only in Western Europe when it comes to the Muslim thing. Like I've seen a lot in Western Europe as Muslims pray in the streets like this, like blocking traffic and blocking pedestrians. It's in Japan too. I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't done it in South Korea. You know, China will just lock your ass up. China don't play that shit. But I didn't think it would really come over here to Japan. Well, come over there to Japan. Holy shit.
Japan has been undergoing a significant transformation, and it's not a positive one. On the streets, protests by Japanese people complaining about mass tourism and immigration are growing. Many say that foreigners are bringing problems, from minor everyday issues to crimes and situations that disrupt the lives of local residents. Of course, we can't generalize. Not every foreigner causes trouble and makes a mess. But so many incidents have been happening, and this has changed the way Japanese people view contact with the outside world and with outsiders. The country, which for decades has marketed itself.
Yep, they have the imperial flag. They're really, because of us foreigners, I keep saying us, because of the Western influence, bro, Japan is really, really tempted to become isolationist again, like they were like in the olden days, man. And I don't fucking blame them, bro. Most Westerners act stupid when they go there, bro.
As welcoming, traditional, and hospitable, is now debating the limits of tourism and even immigration. Political movements and even new parties are emerging with this discourse, and this change may be marking the end of Japan as we know it. And today, we'll understand how Japan reached this point. Why might Japan be on the verge
and they got
of
the
closing
free Palestine thing over there, bro. But most of these people aren't even Japanese.
Off to the world again. And what's causing all this? Before talking about history, it's worth understanding what's happening now in Japan. In recent months, the country has entered a major debate about immigration and mass tourism. Something that wasn't much talked about until recently, but now fills headlines.
Dude, what I found out about that is that it's the younger generation that are talking about the immigration problem in Japan. Like the younger generation doesn't like the shit that's happening in Japan. The younger generation are the ones that say, like, no, we want Japan to be for the Japanese, and we're tired of the tourism coming in and just doing dumb shit and just like being nuisances. That's the right word. That's the right word that they being nuisances. And honestly, when you have the younger generation saying that, hey, there's a big fucking problem and they don't want immigration, which is typically an older thing to say. Let's be honest with ourselves. Typically, older people are the ones that say that they want more conservative values and stuff like that. But when you have the younger generation that are saying that shit, you know you have a big problem in your country if that's the case. You know you have a fucking problem in your country.
Lines and streets. One of the major triggers was the so-called African Hometown Cities, a program announced by the Japan International Cooperation Agency. The idea seemed quite simple, to bring interns from African countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and Mozambique to receive training in Japan, and then return to their countries. But just the...
Wait, what? I mean, does the Japanese get any type of incentive when they do that? I would assume like maybe any natural resources or any minerals that these African countries provide. Because I know that these African countries have a lot of natural resources and minerals. Is that the case? I would assume that they have like, you know, They have to barter or they have to like get something back. They're not just gonna take people just for the fuck of it for free. Yeah, I know it's not gonna be like that. I know it's not like that.
Announcement caused a huge uproar. Thousands of Japanese took to the streets of Tokyo and Osaka with signs saying things like, "Protect the Japanese people," and "End mass immigration." The pressure was such that the government itself had to publicly deny any plans for widespread immigration. The chief cabinet secretary even stated that there are no plans for
Well, yeah, I think that he stepped down as the prime minister. I think he did. Hopefully, I'm not butchering it, but I think he did though.
special visas for Africans, and that the news about mass immigration was false. But the matter didn't end there. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has been advocating opening the doors a bit more to foreign students and workers. Japan is aging rapidly and needs a workforce. On the other hand, nationalist and conservative groups reacted very strongly.
I don't get why that's the first thing people would do to quell the lack of people in a country because of as in what I mean is that why is that the first thing is immigration when it comes to bringing people in because there aren't enough people and there's an aging population. How about you look at the native population and then you make it more enticing for the native people to have children, as in in Japan's case, maybe getting rid of or like heavily penalizing these black companies that overwork their people. You also give like tax incentives or like maybe stipends if you have two or more children, like all the way up until like a certain age. Make it easier for young mothers to have children. Like make it easy for just to have a family in Japan for the native citizens. Not just that, but also Western Europe is going through the same shit. Hell, we're going through the same thing here in the States. Instead of saying, you know what, well, we can't, there's nothing we can do. We're gonna have to bring in foreign people from third world countries to do this. I mean, bro, I mean, give the native people a chance, help them, like, give them an incentive to have children instead of saying, just throwing them into the fucking trash and say, nah, these people are lost cause. We're gonna have to get third world, bring them here, and then they'll have children. It's not a good way to look at it, man.
Saying that this policy threatens cultural identity and could bring social problems. The numbers reveal the great shock. In 2024 alone, Japan received 360,000 new foreign entries, a historical record. This only intensified the discussions that had been growing since 2021, when the death of Weishi Mansandali, a Sri Lankan refugee in a detention center, became the symbol of the debate on immigration and the treatment of foreigners. And it doesn't stop there. Amidst all this, a new and noisy political player emerged, the Sanseito. This party appeared a few years ago and exploded in the 2024
San Seito. I know San means three. I don't know what Seito is, though.
elections, going from almost nothing to 14 seats in the Senate. Today, it is already the fourth largest opposition force.
That's crazy.
Its leader, Sareka Miya, was practically a conservative YouTuber who gained fame during the pandemic by criticizing vaccines, globalism, and immigration. And here's a very important point. The perception of this Japanese party varies greatly depending on who is analyzing it. Some media outlets tend to label Kamiya as a conspiracy theorist, a populist, and far-right, pointing to his anti-immigration rhetoric and ideas.
But isn't that how it is always, bro? If you're not left-leaning or, praising the legacy media and stuff like that, they're gonna like label you as a fascist or far-right or something that's not very endearing. Isn't that how it always is? I mean, at least here in the States, if you're like against the legacy media and when it comes to politics, because I'm not really into politics, but what I've seen, if you're a moderate, you're considered like very far right or fascist and stuff like that. Typically, like the way to be, which I've been noticing is like left leaning, but I think that's changing now. But I guess it's all the same around the world. Like if you're against what the establishment is like, then you're going to be labeled and they're going to demonize you and such. I guess that's everywhere, not just in the West.
Like Japan First as signs of xenophobia and historical revisionism. Meanwhile, other sources consider the Sanseito as a legitimate reaction from part of the population who feels that the government is yielding too much to global pressures, losing sovereignty and cultural identity. The truth here is that, regardless of ideology, this party has managed to place immigration at the center of Japanese political debate in a way that hadn't been seen for decades. And even though analysts say their success might be temporary, the pressure they are already exerting on major parties, like the Liberal Democratic Party, is hardening the tone on immigration and tourism. All of this shows a divided Japan. On one side, the need for foreign workers and tourism that generates billions. On the other, a growing fear of losing control over culture, security, and even daily life. but to understand how a country that seemed so open to visitors reached this point of tension.
But I've noticed this. Hold on. I've noticed a lot of things here too.
In
Like
even
all
daily
this
life.
stuff right here. It's not only Westerners that do this shit.
But to understand
Like if you go, there's a Instagram reel that I watched like that shows like the backsides, like the dark sides of not backsides, like the dark side of Japan. Like all these like young people just coming out of bars and clubs, just partying. All of them are Japanese, by the way, drinking, just vomiting everywhere and shit like that. So it's not just the foreigners. You can't and sitting around not doing shit. And also a lot of these fucking teens that are runaways that are just lounging and just being sitting down on the floor, just smoke. And I don't know if I think there were some of them were smoking, drinking and shit like that. So it's not just the Westerners that do this shit because the Japanese people do this shit too, you know, become nuisances and like get in the way of pedestrian traffic and shit like that. So it's not us, you know, it's not only like Westerners that do this. And
how
I
a
see a lot
country
of Japanese people here too.
that seemed so open to visitors reached this point
Or
of
do they think that like they're like Westerners are a bad influence on the Japanese that they're becoming like that? I highly doubt that's the case.
tension. We need to look into history because this shock didn't come out of nowhere. This climate of rejection, protests, and even new parties with a Japan first rhetoric is the result of a series of events that have happened throughout history. And to understand why the Japanese are so uneasy today, we need to go back a little in time. Japan, for a long time, was one of the most closed countries in the world. Back in the 17th century, they entered a period called Sakoku, which literally means closed country. For over 200 years, almost no foreigners could enter, and practically no Japanese could leave. The idea was to protect against external influences, both religious and political, and to keep Japanese culture pure and intact. This only began to change from the 19th century when American warships literally came knocking on Japan's door. It was the famous episode of Commodore Perry in 1853 that forced the country to open its ports. From then on, Japan was forced to modernize and interact more with the rest of the world. But even so, the opening was controlled, always with a certain distrust of foreigners. After World War II, Japan truly transformed once and for all. With the defeat and American occupation, the country had to reinvent itself.
Yeah, they basically had no choice. They really had no choice after World War II.
Constitution, got closer to the West, and entered a phase of incredible economic growth. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Japan became a symbol of technology, pop culture, and even hospitality.
Then they went bust in the 90s. Yeah, they had that huge boom like the 60s or I think 70s, 60s through the 80s, up until like the early 90s, I think in 1991, where basically they just completely crashed out and their economy just went bust and no growth was happening. But before like 91 or the 90s in general, they were fucking booming with all of the electronics and all the entertainment that was coming out. So many fucking singers, so many electronic, just so much, so many cars, just so much good shit coming out of Japan back then. And then it just they became stagnant, you know, like around the 90s. So, yeah.
You can almost feel that nostalgic taste of Japanese city pop. It was a time when everyone wanted to visit Tokyo, eat sushi, see ancient temples, and dive into the anime and video games that were exploding worldwide.
Golly.
Japan gained a reputation for being both a welcoming and modern country. This created a very positive international image, almost as if Japan were a cultural paradise open for the entire world to visit and admire.
It's also a problem too, bro. A lot of these fucking Westerners think that Japan is like a fucking playground for them, that they could just do whatever the fuck they please, bro. And that's the reason why, in most cases, the Japanese are saying like, nah, they had it fucking enough, bro. They don't want this shit to go on, and they're tired of it. They're tired of Westerners, man. And sometimes, I mean, most humans do this. There are, of course, not all Westerners do this, but then you had good Westerners get lumped in with the bad ones because they happen to be Western, you know? If I ever do decide to visit Japan, hopefully one day when I'm not too broke and poor, they'll probably, you know, label me as a fucking nuisance just because I'm a Westerner. You know, and I can't say I blame them.
But this pretty image had a detail. Japan was still very selective with foreigners who wanted to stay permanently in the country. Tourism was very welcome, but immigration, not so much. Japan became the factory of the world. It exported Toyotas, Walkmans, video games, anime, but imported almost no people. This balance worked for a few decades, but ended up being one of the reasons that helped create the crisis we see today. They had no idea what would happen in the coming years. The door is open. Immigration to save the economy. One of the first symptoms began around 2010, when Japan literally started losing people. The population shrank by more than 500,000 people per year.
Yeah, they got a lot of old people in Japan. I mean, not just Japan, just like in in Eastern Asia, they have a lot of like Northeast Asia. They have the elderly population is growing like crazy, and they're not even that many young people anymore.
There weren't enough workers in factories, construction sites, farms, and even sushi restaurants.
Hmm.
Without young people, Japan's economic machine began to sputter. The government tried to resist, but the time came when it was no longer possible. In 2019, they created a new visa, the Specified Skilled Worker, to bring foreign labor into very critical sectors like construction, agriculture, and elder care. And Japan, which had always kept its borders closed to immigrants, opened a small crack. And a lot of people came in. Thousands of Vietnamese, Filipinos, Chinese, Indonesians, even Kurds fleeing conflicts in the Middle East started arriving. The factories that were almost shutting down.
Honestly, guys, I think when it comes to this type of immigration that comes to a country, I think, like, for example, there are certain immigrants that can easily, you know, integrate with society, like depending on what country you come from. I'll take Japan, for example, since they're talking about Japan and we're talking about Japan. Like, I think the best people that integrates a lot better in, like, really well in Japan are other Northeast Asians, like Koreans and Chinese people, specifically like from Manchuria, because their genetics are very similar to each other. So yeah, I think those people are very can easily integrate. And then you have other like other Asian people who that could probably make the cut as well, like maybe like Vietnamese and stuff like that. Like I think it's gonna be a lot harder for people like from India or or any Westerners to integrate with Japan, because honestly, the first thing, let's be real, like race, it does play a factor. The first thing that people see is your fucking race every time when you meet somebody or you go into a foreign land and shit like that, is the color of your skin, your race. It is what it is. Same thing you have when you go to Africa, or or the countries of any country of Sub-Saharan Africa or North Africa, or any countries of Europe. All right, it's going to be a lot better if you look like one of them to integrate instead of not looking like them. And that's the unfortunate reality, I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying what it is. It is what it is.
Gained a lot of momentum. And at the same time, tourism exploded in the country, especially after the pandemic. In 2024, more than 30 million tourists flooded the archipelago.
I don't know how some tourists do it though. Like every time I see fucking like non-Japanese people and the fact that they're able to learn Japanese so fucking quickly, it's like astonishing to me. Like, how were you able to learn Japanese so fucking quickly? Bro, I'm studying Japanese and that shit is fucking hard, especially learning like kanji. Like kanji has been whooping my ass for almost 6 months now and I still can't get around kanji. Like hiragana and katakana is okay, like that's the writing system, by the way, but it's like, fuck, man. The only reason I recognize and know how to the pronunciation system is because I've been watching anime for like more than 20 years. Like 20 years I've been watching anime. Like 15 to 17 years in Japanese. So that's why I'm able to duplicate or mimic the sounds that they make, to at least make it sound like I'm not like some fucking dumbass foreigner. But damn, how do these fucking tourists do it? Holy shit, do they have Rosetta Stone or something like that, or Duolingo? Like shit.
Breaking all historical records. But Japan opened the door without thinking about how to welcome these people. Most of these foreign workers ended up in very difficult, low-paid jobs with very little chance to grow or even integrate into society. Many tourists began to be seen as noisy invaders who disrespect rules and overcrowd cities. The image of hospitality began to crack. That half-open door turned into a gigantic problem. Japan, which had always been synonymous with order and tranquility, began to feel the heavy weight of so many outsiders. Over-tourism became the word of the day. Kyoto, once known for the silence of its temples and charming streets, became crowded with people taking selfies in the middle of the way, pushing residents, leaving trash.
Oh yeah, I remember also seeing a woman dressed in like traditional Japanese attire. She was getting chased by some fucking foreigner just trying to take a picture of her, and like you could see that she's visibly uncomfortable because she's trying to get out of the way, but she keeps getting in the way of her. Just damn, like, bitch, take the fucking hint. If you see that she's trying to get away from you and trying to avoid you taking pictures of her, stop fucking trying to get in her way, get in her path, just so you can get your fucking shot. I think she was from Spain or American or something like that. Maybe I'll post the video up. I don't know. But damn, like, bitch, no wonder they don't fucking like us.
عشان كذي اليابانيين يتشكون من السياح. شوفوا 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 Yeah.
You can't do that. Oh my goodness. That's so rude.
Layer to Kyoto, that's
became
She was a fucking Westerner, like I mentioned, Spanish or American or some shit.
crowded with people taking selfies in the middle of the way, pushing residents, leaving trash on the streets, and driving up prices everywhere. At Mount Fuji, kilometer-long lines formed
Fuji-san!
just to take pictures. They even had to install a gate and charge an entrance fee to control the crowds. Places that once lived off tourism started to hate tourism. Immigration also began to take its toll. The promise of a workforce to save the economy came along with stories that frightened the Japanese. Cases of robberies and thefts committed by foreign groups, some even live-streamed by streamers seeking attention, began to surface.
That's crazy.
Public health care became more strained, with overcrowded clinics and hospitals. Cheap housing disappeared in some regions. And in certain neighborhoods, rent skyrocketed as large numbers of newcomers arrived all at once. To make things worse,
supply and
fake
demand.
news started spreading freely across the internet. One of the most famous claimed that Japan had donated an entire city to Tanzania, which was completely false, but went viral and fueled fears of losing territory and identity. The spark came in 2025, when massive protests filled the streets in cities like Tokyo, Osaka,
See,
and
the
even
younger
Saitama.
generation, bro. The younger
Signs
generation
reading
saying, nah,
"Protect
fuck
Japan"
this.
and "Invaders Out" began to appear. Kurdish groups who were already victims of prejudice became direct targets, often unfairly accused of crimes and of stealing jobs. The climate in the country began to grow increasingly tense, and this feeling didn't stop in the streets. It started to invade politics. In the June 2025 elections, a party that almost nobody took seriously, the Sanseido, made a significant leap. With the slogan "Japan First," they copied much of Trump's style, with strong nationalism,
Yeah, I
anti-immigration,
had a feeling. Bro, this is everywhere, like they mentioned.
and a hefty dose of fear about security and jobs.
So, immigration, nationalism, job security, all that stuff, bro. It's not just Japan. United States, the Western European countries like Germany, England. England gotta get. I don't know, man. England is in the shit right now, man. It's not. I mean, their immigration problem. That's just one thing. That's the problem with them, bro. Like all of their money goes straight to fucking London, bro. Every other spot in the UK is just completely down bad. Even like in South London, which is like maybe like a next door neighbor to London, they don't get fuck all. If you go outside of London, every other place in England is just fucking broke and just in destitute. You know, granted, there are definitely beautiful places that you could see like greenery and pastures, but they have no money, no job opportunity. It's even worse when you go to Wales or Scotland, and you wonder why every country, like every first world nation, is becoming very nationalistic like this. Like, not just because of Trump, but because they see the shit that's happening, and but Trump is just saying it out loud, saying out loud the shit that most people are thinking. You know, and it's fascist for people to say that in some settings. I I don't know, man. I mean, you can't really blame the people for standing up and saying we don't want this shit anymore when you basically just when they see with their own eyes what's going on in their country. It's fucking crazy.
For the first time, they won important seats in the Senate and became international news. Figures like Yusuke Kawai took advantage of the tense atmosphere and began openly blaming immigrants for problems like inflation, violence, and loss of cultural identity. And it wasn't just empty rhetoric. YouTube, TikTok, and other social networks became very powerful weapons. Viral videos, memes inciting hatred, and influencers going live against foreigners helped spread the idea that Japan is being invaded. We understand that part of this feeling is valid. People have the right to feel this way, but much of this assertion is purely mass political propaganda. The phenomenon is very reminiscent of what happened in the United States and parts of Europe. And the protests
Glad they
that were
mentioned
already
it.
strong became fuel for a wave that exploded in 2025, placing Japan in one of the most tense moments of its recent history. Between June and September 2025, Japan entered a climate that no one imagined seeing. Cities known for silence and organization, like the ones I mentioned, were taken over by massive protests against immigration and destructive tourism. The trigger was a viral video, a foreign streamer assaulting an elderly Japanese man. That was enough to
And this
set
foreign streamer sounds Spanish. This foreign streamer sounds straight up like Spanish from Spain. Like, is he a Spaniard or something? Is somebody... Who
Full
is the
video.
streamer? I think this guy's like a kick streamer or some shit like that. Chat, is that the case? Let me know who this guy is, because I have no
A
idea,
foreign
because I don't
streamer.
really follow most kick streamers like that, because they're way out there. But who is this guy? Seriously.
assaulting an elderly Japanese man. That was enough to set social networks ablaze and become
this
a
fucker
symbol
keeps
that
pushing them.
Japan
That's
is losing
crazy.
control. The government tried to react quickly with what they called the Zero Plan, a package that promised to accelerate deportations, toughen visa rules, and even multiply by 6 the minimum capital required for foreign entrepreneurs to start businesses. But instead of calming things down, it just increased the tension. Prime Minister Ishiba saw his popularity plummet. The discussion about limiting foreigners moved from social networks to becoming a serious issue in parliament, dividing the country between those who want to protect Japanese identity and those who fear a dangerous regression. After so much tension, Japan began to feel the weight of slightly open doors. The economy took a significant hit. Factories complained about the lack of labor, but local residents breathed a sigh of relief with less pressure on housing and public services. The government further tightened the rules, trying their best to deport those who were irregular. Xenophobia in the country also rose.
See what I mean? He resigned. I knew I was fucking right. He did step down because of all the backlash and his popularity just plummeting. Yeah, I knew it.
Tightened the rules, trying their best to deport those who were irregular. Xenophobia in the country also rose, and the debate about national identity became a daily topic. But there's a very important detail here. The country still depends on foreigners. Without workers in key sectors, Japan risks stagnating once and for all.
Dude, you have the government of Japan. They have got to entice the people to have children, bro. They've got to entice them, man. You have got to at least give them like I mentioned before, a stipend to have children, like up to a certain point. And if they get into a certain fields, give them a lot more money. You know, there's certain jobs that people don't want to do. If you entice them with a little extra green, you definitely get a lot of people to work. Encourage, marriage, encourage couples, make it feasible for people to live, like getting rid of black companies and making houses affordable for them to live and start a family. And you wonder why you're getting so many fucking foreigners. And like she mentioned, they need foreigners now because nobody's taking these jobs. Well, the government's at fault of that because you made it almost impossible for people to fucking live in their own country. You made it impossible for the natives to live in their own fucking country. And you wonder why you're in the position you guys are in. You wonder why.
Is this the end of an open era? Or a period of adaptation where the country tries to balance security, economy, and identity? What we're seeing here is a country on the brink between closing itself off and adapting, trying to protect its identity without stifling growth. It's a very challenging scenario, but it shows how historical and economic decisions have effects across generations. The Japan we knew, with peaceful tourism, organized streets, sushi, and pop culture for the whole world, is slowly changing before our eyes. But will this crisis
It's not changing for the better, I can tell you that much.
lead to the end of an open Japan? Or will a new, more balanced, and less dangerous model emerge? We don't have an answer for this yet. It's all very recent. This is happening in real time, and we'll discover more soon. But comment below what you think about all this, or what you believe is the solution for Japan at this moment.
The solution, like I mentioned before, have the government incite the native Japanese people to have more children. Make it easy for them to have a house, to start a family. Get rid of companies who are basically exploiting them. Cut these fucking stupid ass hours that basically, because Japanese people are like killing themselves. Just like there's actually a term that they have called like death by overworking. Cut the company, like stop having these 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks, because that's literally killing them in real time. And some of them as young as in their fucking late 20s and shit like that. The black companies or black corporations, what the fuck you call them, like get rid of them or heavily penalize them if some shit like that happens. No, actually, no, the penalization doesn't work because their family members actually do, demand monetary compensation when their loved one dies because of these corporations. I'd say just get rid of black companies in general, or make a law that 90-hour work weeks are illegal. Make it like 40 or like 50 hours at best, And if they want to say overtime, then just ask for it, But that's just my 2 cents on how you can change a fucking country, how Japan can survive this shit, So, yeah.